Hello, this is Coding Gicha for full stack developers. In the previous time, I installed Visual Studio Code and set up the overall settings and keyboard shortcuts. This time, I will explain about useful extensions and related preferences. Visual Studio Code provides extensions that expand various functions. I will recommend a few useful extensions. Installing Code Runner lets you run code in a variety of languages. Editor config, which keeps everyone working on the codebase in sync, is available in Visual Studio Code via an extension. If you're developing PHP, it's a good idea to look at the log while developing, and Log Viewer can help. Scroll to cursor scrolls the line at the cursor position to the top of the screen. The shortcut is Ctrl-L. There's also Sort Lines, which sorts text by line. If you develop with REST API, I recommend Thunder Client. It will make you no longer use Postman. If you want to show hidden files, change the values for the files set in Files Exclude to false in the user settings. It is inconvenient to edit the settings.json file directly every time. You can change them all at once by toggling true and false through toggle excluded files. I also recommend rainbow brackets, which displays pairs of brackets in color. After installing rainbow brackets, you will see a notification that it is no longer a maintained extension. This is because rainbow brackets will not be updated after May 2022. I will set it so that the notification is not displayed. I will also introduce extensions related to development languages that I personally recommend. I will install the Dino extension. The runtime language for JavaScript has already established an ecosystem with Node.js, but it is becoming more distant from the standard ECMA script, so I personally prefer Dino. I recommend it because it supports more standard ECMA script syntax not only for back-end development but also for front-end development. As a reference, since Visual Studio Code is supported based on Node.js, if you set the JavaScript format to the default format provided by Visual Studio Code, there may be some differences from ECMA script in the import syntax, which may be inconvenient. Extension Pack for Java is an extension pack that collects Java-related extensions. A total of 7 Java-related extensions are integrated and installed. Since 7 extensions are installed, it takes some time. The Spring Boot related integrated extension pack is the Spring Boot extension pack. A total of 3 extensions are integrated and installed. The Spring Boot extension pack also takes some time to install. If you develop with JSP, it is recommended to install JSP language support. JSP language support is an extension that supports Jakarta server pages, but other JSP support extensions are extensions that support Java server pages. Since Java EE has practically ended technical support, you need to install an extension that supports Jakarta EE. Visual Studio Code can manage project folders by grouping them into a workspace. Currently, there is only one project folder, but I will save the workspace in the upper folder. When managing with a workspace, the project folders should go into their subfolders, but only the project folder name is changed to the workspace name. If you restart Visual Studio Code or fold and unfold the workspace, the hierarchy will appear normally. Now, you can add another project folder to the workspace to manage multiple projects in one window. I will not add more projects here. Additional settings are required due to the installation of extensions. It would also be a good idea to modify the shortcuts to match the added extensions. Let's start with the additional settings for shortcuts. The shortcuts in Visual Studio Code are managed as JSON files, and since you have installed the Dino extension, there is one more Dino extension formatter in addition to the built-in formatter that supports JSON. You need to specify which formatter to use. The extension of the shortcut settings file is JSON, but it is actually internally associated with JSON-C. Since it is used differently from the extension, it is recommended to keep JSON and JSON-C as the JSON formatter of Visual Studio Code so that the settings are recognized more properly. Now the formatter issue is gone. I will copy the additional shortcut key settings according to the extension installation from the Coding Gicha site. I will paste the copied additional shortcut key settings. The shortcut for sort lines is F9, which is confusing because F9 is usually the shortcut for showing the sidebar, so I'll change it to Control F9. The default shortcut for toggle excluded files is the shortcut for toggle block comment, so I'll change it to Shift Alt A. The default shortcut only works when File Explorer has focus, so I'll remove that restriction. If you have too many files open, it will get messy, so let's close all the open files. You will see the Toggle Excluded Files toggle icon in the lower right of the status bar. If you hover your mouse over File Explorer, you will also see the Show Excluded Files icon in File Explorer. The shortcut key is a bit faster than clicking the icon. Let's try pressing the newly set Shift-Alt-A. You will see the hidden.vs code directory. To use Dino extensions, you need to enable Dino. Since the ecosystem for the runtime language for JavaScript has already been built with Node.js, it is more flexible to set it for each project developed with Dino rather than user settings. When you run JavaScript or TypeScript files with Dino, ANSI colors are applied, but the code runner does not support ANSI colors, so you need to run it in the terminal or disable ANSI colors. Settings.json is also a JSON extension, but it is actually a JSON-C format. Dino is a runtime language used on the server side, so it is mainly used for back-end development, but if you want to use it in front-end development, you need to set up libraries for DOM and window objects. Since the Dino.json-C file is not a configuration file built into Visual Studio Code, you need to use the extension to JSON-C to use comments. In order for Visual Studio Code to recognize the information set in the Dino.json-C file, you need to register it in the workspace settings. The default value of Dino.config is set to the Dino.json-C file in the project root directory, but since the configuration files are messy in the root directory, I will manage them by collecting them in .vs code directory. I opened JSON extension and JSON-C extension files, but in reality, they were all JSON-C format. Let's open a file in real JSON format. The formatter issue is displayed. I will also set the JSON format with Visual Studio Code's JSON formatter. I will also open the TypeScript file. I will use the Dino formatter for the TypeScript format. The TypeScript formatter in Visual Studio Code is different from the standard ECMA script, making it inconvenient to use standard import syntax, etc. I will close all the remaining files, leaving only the file I am currently working on, using the Ctrl-Alt-W shortcut key that I set in the previous lesson. The formatter for JSON-C, JSON, and TypeScript, which I set when opening files with the corresponding extensions, is set. I will also set the Dino formatter for JavaScript. Since I am using the shortcut for Toggle Excluded Files, I will remove the Hide Excluded Files icon. I will hide the excluded files with the shortcut Shift-Alt-A. I will also remove the Show Excluded Files icon. I will also remove the Toggle Excluded Files icon in the status bar at the bottom right. When you install the Dino extension, the status bar shows the Dino version, but it only shows whether there are any available upgrades, so it is not very useful, so I will also remove this. The status bar shows more information depending on the file format and project type, so too much information can be distracting and cause you to miss important information. Thank you for watching.